low budget filmmaking, or all aspects of filmmaking for that matter, you're inevitably going to be coming across all kinds of limitations that we'll need to find cheap and creative solutions for. And on the very low budget end of things, lighting is often one of the biggest hurdles that you come across, especially when you're shooting outside at night. One of the best and easiest workarounds that we found for this is removals. Most commonly, when you think about removing something from your scene, you're thinking about a boom that's in the shot, a reflection that will pull your audience out of the scene, or removing the wires off of your stunt performers, all of which we have shown on the show before. Link in the notes. But another thing we often use this technique for is removing lights in frame. A great example of that would be from this shot here from Thompson's Stranger Things fan film, which is awesome and you should watch right now. Link in the notes. And it's ridiculously easy to pull this off. Since it's a locked off shot, Thompson got one shot with the actor and lights in frame, and the lights, of course, giving separation and much needed light for the actor. Then he grabbed a clean plate and masked the lights out. That's it. Of course, the reason that he did it this way was a lack of gear to rig the lights another way, and since these are smaller lights, they needed to be close to the subject to be effective. Or you could do a walking shot like this one here. It's another night shot, and in a wide shot, without the light, the talent would be completely in shadow and we'd lose all interest. Again, this was a very low budget and low resources shoot. So you have to get creative, and here Thompson walked pretty close to the actress with the light to get the levels needed. Then again, using a clean plate, he masked out the light and the crew member, and there you go. You can also get crazy with it and completely alter the background entirely to change your scene and remove the light that's in frame, like in this shot here from Thompson's short film Playtime. Link in the notes. But as we've shown already, it doesn't have to get this complicated. Take this shot here. It's an interesting look that would be great for an ad and especially a music video, but obviously this right here, not great. I mean, it's Josh. He's standing there, so yeah, that's never great.
Yeah, you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Now for this shot, like the others I showed, I knew we needed a clean plate, but I wanted it to have a similar cast of light as the original shot. So I grabbed two extra shots. The first having the light on the opposite side, and the second with the light off completely, which we may or may not need. Now in After Effects, we're gonna drag and drop the separate clean plate with the light on the opposite side above our main shot. Then we'll turn off the clean plate's visibility, and with the layer still selected, we're gonna use the pen tool and start drawing a mask around the gear that we wanna remove. We will, of course, feather that until the layers look well blended, and we have to be careful here because if you feather it too much, the thinner areas of the mask will start to show the layer beneath like you see here. So what you can do is feather it for the narrowest part of the mask, then if you click on the pen tool drop down here, you'll find the mask feather tool. We're gonna click on the area of the mask to set the first point, and now if you click and drag, you can see it creates a border inside the mask. So for these areas, we'll have a very narrow feather width, but down here we can make it really wide so that this area is more feathered and blending really well. Overall, controlling the level of a feather for different areas of a mask can really come in handy, especially when rotoing something with motion blur. But now that we finished, you can see what we have here, a hovering light. And if we want to get rid of that light, we could use that shot we got with the light off, but if we didn't have that, this would be pretty easy to remove still since we have a dark background. All we have to do is duplicate our footage and bring it to the top of the comp, then move it over until the dark area is covering the light. Once again, we're going to hide visibility and draw a mask on this new layer around the light. And now we're going to turn visibility back on, feather it until it's seamless, and there we go. Now, if you are unable to get a clean plate at all, although you should always try to get one, an alternative to a clean plate would be to paint out what you need to remove. To do that, double click the main footage layer to open it in the layer window. We're going to choose the clone stamp tool, and you should see a new brush window and paint window appear, although we may have a slightly different layout to yours. Zoom in if you need to, and you can hold down Control on your keyboard while clicking and dragging to increase and decrease the brush size, or you can do it with this diameter control here. We're just going to do our best to paint out Josh and the gear with the clone tool, making the brush sizes bigger and smaller as we go when necessary. With certain areas like this shadow here, it can work better if you lower the brush's opacity and build up the layers of cloning to help blend everything together more smoothly. For instance, we have this kind of harsh difference between light and dark from the different areas that we clone, so you can use a lower opacity to try to gradually blend these two together. Now in our shot, we had to paint over some cracked ground, and then you could see that the clone effect looks kind of smooth, a little bit as if there were a blur effect. So we'll grab a free cement texture from unsplash.com. We'll drop that over the cloned area and scale it down, and then set the layer blending mode to multiply. Next, we'll make the texture a 3D layer and tweak the rotation amounts and scale if needed until it roughly matches the scene. Luckily for us, the texture has a dark linear area which we can line up to this actual line in the footage. Then mask around the main area and feather it out, and we're going to scale it a little bit more to fill out the area, and you may need to add effects like a blur or color correction to help it match the footage as much as possible. And since we are in this blending mode, we can increase the brightness to make it less visible if needed. But there you have it, and again, it's always best to get a clean plate, but this can be a good workaround if you weren't able to. And now that we have our shot clean, light gone, we can add whatever effect that we want to motivate this mysterious light from above, like this, or, this. Now we take a break, then light a large area at night with one light. Domain.com is all your website needs, including .com and .net domain names and intuitive website builders to take the first steps in creating an identity online.
I heard they started killing people over it.
Can we talk for a second?
Where you? No,
Can we talk for a second?
Where are you going? Where are you going?
wanted-
That's really close to
I
me.
just
That's
wanted
really
to talk
close
to you
me.
about. I just wanted to talk to you about constantly interrupting.
This is feeling very. This is starting to feel
Trying to get a sponsor.
Starting to feel
Just trying to
a little.
get a sponsor.
Okay, right.
Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep.
Right.
They're affordable and reliable and have all the tools that you need to start building a website and sharing your ideas with the world on that professional website. Of course, no domain extension is going to help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. And if you want to brand yourself online, domain.com has over 300 domain name extensions to fit your needs from .club to .space. And of course, I want to show you love by giving you 15% off their already affordable prices when you get domain names, web hosting, and email. Just use that coupon code FilmRiot at domain.com's checkout. And when you think domain names, think domain.com. Okay?
What happened?
You just went to sleep for a minute.
What did you mean?
Don't worry about it.
I saw Grandma.
The last thing we're going to look at is lighting a large area that you don't actually have the gear to handle. Like in this shot here, you can see there's almost no light at all in the scene, and all Thompson had was a cheap LED light. So he took that and walked around lighting the trees from all different angles. Now back in After Effects, we can skim through that footage and duplicate it each time we find a frame with a different area well lit. Once you have multiple layers, we can go through each one and mask around the area you want to keep. You might need to boost the feathering a lot to make it all seamless, but once you've finished masking, you should basically have a collage of different lit areas like this. And because a lot of these areas are overlapping, we need to change the blending mode. So select every layer and set the blending mode to screen. Then we will apply a levels effect to one of the layers and crush the blacks until we have the lit area visible. Now copy and paste this levels effect to all the layers and you should have something like this. Now you can go through each layer and tweak the opacity levels or hide the layer altogether if needed for your shot, completely tailoring it until you are happy with the look. Now throw on a grade and you have an external night shot lit by one light. Of course, this would only be good for certain things like establishing shots where there isn't a lot happening, but we have used a similar technique in the past that did, like this end shot from my short film Ghost House. We didn't have enough lights to get the fire effect on the entire house, so we lit the whole thing in passes. One side, then the other, then the middle, with our talent always in the center frame for the final shot. So in the end, similar to what we showed in the last shot, we stitch all of those individual shots together, then Andrew tossed on some sexy video co-pilot fire, and we had our shot. Of course, the point of all of this being that this general idea can be a creative solution for a massive amount of different issues you might come across. Whether it's lighting or just some kind of removal, you are rarely stuck with what you have.
Logo.
But that's it. Check the notes for all the sexy links, and I'll see you next week when I almost skip off the atmosphere.